Welcome to the new For Purpose CEO podcast.
I'm Michelle.
I am Danielle, and we are here to talk about being a CEO in the for purpose sector. Each episode, we will talk about issues not-for-profit and for-purpose CEOs need to manage based on our 30 plus years of experience. It will be an honest discussion of the highs and the lows, helping you tackle the unique challenges of running a NFP.
Leading can be challenging and sometimes lonely. We get it. Join us and our guests weekly for an honest discussion about running a for-purpose organisation. We will be sharing practical tips, shared experiences and real-world stories to help you tackle the unique challenges of running a for-purpose organisation.
Today we're talking with Jason, and Jason is the CEO and founder of Supertee. Now, Supertee is a charity that has been set up after the creation of a really cool t-shirt that's actually a medical garment that kids can wear in hospital, and it serves two purposes. Firstly, it makes the child actually feel like a superhero, and it gives them something cool to wear rather than hospital gowns, which, as anyone who's had a child in hospital knows, are fairly dreadful, are fairly uncomfortable, and no kid wants to actually wear. And secondly, it's actually a specially designed t-shirt, and it allows doctors and nurses to change tubes or administer medicine and do what needs to be done in a way that's actually much less distressing and more comfortable for the child. So it's amazing. Like, it's literally amazing, and it also looks cool. So, Jason, I understand this is a really personal mission for you, and you've set up a charity and you didn't used to work in charity. So tell us how you've ended up here.
Yes, Michelle, thank you. And what a lovely intro. I really appreciate that. So the story goes that 12 years ago, I was a tradie, and I was also a father to a 1-year-old little girl, my daughter Angela. Shortly after her first birthday, she was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Me, being the tradie that I was, needed something to fix. Noticed how hard it was to keep her clean and hygienic through the nearly 3 years that she was in treatment. Felt pretty useless during the time that, she was in hospital, because I felt sidelined through everything. I wasn't really much help, and I needed something to do. I needed something to make a difference. I needed to make a difference for her. And I noticed how hard it was to change her. And out of frustration one day, I asked a nurse who was helping me change Angela, why haven't they come up with something to make it easier for us to change our kids? And what started was a 2-year journey of trying to reinvent the hospital gown. Never sewn a button, never made a t-shirt before. And I'll share a secret with everyone that's listening. I still don't know.
Oh, yeah. So a button, yeah, maybe. But I have to say, look, t-shirt making, it's never been on my dance card, shall we say. But I guess it's also not something that you kind of think you'd ever need to do in your life, right? And also it's not simple, because you presumably didn't just go and get a roll of material and cut out a pattern. You actually had to do some investigation. You had to work out presumably what doctors need to be able to access and do. So I'm assuming this wasn't a simple process.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Look, the one thing I did have was I was desperate to help. I had access to information. I had access to a lot of nurses and doctors and other families, other parents. And if we can agree that the hospital gown has become a symbol of illness, I mean, you wouldn't be able to walk through a shopping center without security following you, or you wouldn't be able to get into a club, an RSL, a sporting club, wearing one. And this is what we give people we love in hospital. They already feel sick. Now, here, you officially look sick. Here's your hospital gown. And
They actually lack dignity, don't they? So whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, the hospital gown lacks dignity, not by intention, but I think anyone who's worn one would probably feel that. So I get that point of it's a symbol of illness.
Absolutely. And, we were looking at different ways that a medical garment could operate. I mean, we tried gowns, we tried ponchos, it was a wrap. There was one with shoelace ties around it. I don't know why.
Oh, wow. You threw everything at it.
Well, it was 2 years of failing forward. Yeah. There was a lovely lady that lived nearby that did the alterations for school uniforms. And I was desperate for her help. And she said, look, I'll help you. You buy the material, and I would do the sewing that you need. And she never charged me $1. Never charged me $1. And I offered to pay her. And she said, no, you'll take the blessing away from me. Don't do that. And we then launched in June 2018 our first designs after we realized we found a way to make this very practical. But it was my son. I'm now a father of 3. So my son, Teo, who's my middle child, he grew up seeing a lot of things that no child should have seen, with his older sister and a lot of pain and suffering. And I wonder if that's why he gravitated towards loving and liking superheroes. He showed me it wasn't just the medical garment we had to reinvent. We had to reinvent the meaning of it.
So both your two of your 3 children at this stage have actually inspired this design, which has then become this charity. That's extraordinary. So that is really listening to the needs of a child.
Yeah. So the story goes, I was watching TV at home and I say to my son, Teo, go get changed. We're going to go see Mummy and Angela at the hospital. Now, Teo's got all the toys. He's got all the costumes. And emerges shortly after into the bedroom is this fully kitted out superhero with this look on his face. And I say, as I'm flicking through the channels, as a joke, hey, mate, what are we doing? Who are we saving today? And you know what he said? Angela.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. Oh, oh.
I know. I took a photo of that moment and I shared it with Mum. And, they call it the alter ego effect. It's sometimes known by a few different names, superhero effect, the power of a costume and what that means to a child and how that can change their persona and the difference it makes.
That's so amazing. So you started with, a problem to solve. You've gone and done an amazing amount of work. You've probably engaged with lots of different people that needed to be part of the process. So you've done this all coming from a background where this was not the way you did things and this was not your work. Though I guess as a tradie, you actually are probably really good at talking to people. So jumping to now, so how big now is Supertee? Because it feels like you've been on an incredible growth trajectory, but I'm assuming it wasn't steady growth as well. So where are you now? And let's then kind of go back and say, how did you get there?
Well, I'm proud to say we're in more than 102 hospitals throughout the nation of Australia.
Wow, since 2018 when you designed it.
Yeah. We got our charity status in 2020. And that was because when we launched back in 2018, we really didn't know how this would sit among the public. Like, how would people respond to this? We knew one thing, though. We didn't want parents to have to worry about how they could buy it. I think a lot of people forget that when there's a child that's diagnosed with something life-threatening, not only do the parents worry about the child, they also worry about if they can keep their job, if they can pay the bills. Their work is interrupted. So we didn't want them to have to worry about how they can afford it. And so we were trying to market it towards family and friends, buy this as an alternative to a toy. But overwhelming number of people were buying these on our website and just putting down the hospital address. And when we would contact them and say, what's the name of the child? What's the bed number? What ward are they on? Just give it out.
Oh, they were just donating it.
Yeah. It had to become a charity. Yeah.
So actually then it became very clear you needed to form a charity. You needed to be a charity because people wanted to buy these and then donate the product. But also people presumably wanted to actually just donate and say, look, I love your mission. I love what you're doing. I need to give you some money. I don't necessarily want to buy a garment. I have no one to buy a garment for right now. Hopefully not. But, now I just want to actually give you money to help you keep going, keep producing these T-shirts.
Yeah. What I find, and it's been a really interesting journey I've been on being in the not-for-profit sector because, there's some misconceptions, but there's also some views that people share about the not-for-profit sector. You don't know where your money's going, or when you donate, you don't know how much is actually reaching those that you want to help. And so we encountered all of that. But I think one thing that we learned was that we had a physical, tangible product. And if you have doubts, you buy it. And if you buy a number of them, I'm quite happy for you to help me pack them, and see where they're going. And I think it started that journey of trying to develop a relationship with donors where they could trust us in our mission because they could see that here's a dad that's desperate to help. Here's a dad that's trying to make a difference. There's nothing really special about me. I'm just very persistent. I'm a persistent bugger. And I think that this has always been from the viewpoint of what's in the best interest of children. And I think people realize and see that. And it's made a difference to how we market. It really influences the way that we liaise and communicate with our supporters, as well as maintain that level of trust.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because I'm listening to you and everything you're saying is something that CEOs across the sector need to get their head around, address, deal with. So they need to have good relationships with their funders. They need to understand their beneficiaries. They need to have a story. They need to actually be able to explain the mission and the purpose of the organisation. And, you know, these are very fundamental things. And I mean, you've started from scratch. So you knew all this almost inherently, but it's really interesting because sometimes CEOs will join an organisation and everything's ticking along and these really, really basic things are actually so fundamental. And it's almost like you need to go, oh, yes, okay, who are all my stakeholders? Who am I serving? What am I here for? And really make sure that's crystal clear, because I think it's so clear from your journey, your story, that without this clarity around what you're doing, who you're working for, and how you're going to be funded, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. What you've said reminds me of a conversation I had with a medical professional where they said a business is very much like treating a patient. The financials are like the blood check or the blood counts that you do. You know, you listen to the heartbeat of the patient, you listen to the heartbeat of the business, you diagnose where the pain points are, you look to treat that. And so it's kind of a similar view. We listen very closely to how people respond to what people are saying. We wanted this charity to have a soul. I know it's strange to say that, but if that's not a brand, what is it then? I think it's to the point that we wanted to pivot as quickly as we needed to, listening to what people are saying, because the overarching goal was, how can we help as many children as possible? For us, we want to have a Supertee waiting for every time a child or a family is given bad news. I want there to be a Supertee there because of someone else, thinking of them, believing in them, wants them to keep going, and a way to bring closer together those that want to help with those that essentially deserve all the help in the world.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's amazing. Now, I'm going to ask a boring question, and it's not boring, but it is, you know, the story is very compelling and it's what people are drawn to, but you are a CEO and you're running an organisation. And so there's a whole lot of like just organisational things and relationships with boards and systems and processes and bank accounts and reporting and, you know, all that stuff. So as a first-time CEO, I'm imagining it would have been a bit of a shock. Now, obviously, you ran your own business, so it's not like you didn't know what to do, but I just wonder how stepping into this kind of multifaceted stakeholder world and suddenly going, I have a mission, I need to do something, and now there's all this red tape and stuff around me, which it's essential, but it's a juggle to deal with that as well as start a charity and get it off the ground.
Exciting stuff, isn't it? I think for me, it's been such a wonderful learning experience. It's been quite the journey being on part of the story of Supertee. I think for us, it always comes back to, why are we doing this? Why does this matter? Why put up with it all? You know, why should I care? And what do I need to do in order to steer this? I'm in this driver's seat. I don't need to know everything. This is what I learned very quickly. I don't need to know everything. I just need to know people that do know the answer to questions and know how to do things. I need to bring together a community of specialized people that know their stuff very well, care about the same things I care about. And that's it. That's no special secret. That's really every other business. But
Right. But I think that is actually a secret. I think so many people don't realize that. And, you know, you've got all the kind of control freaks and micromanagers. And I actually think that's one of the most powerful things to recognize and realize as a CEO.
well, I appreciate that. And I think for me, removing the ego is number one. I wanted Supertee to have the best chance possible of being one of the most loved children's charities in the country. And so I need to do that by bringing together a community of people. I can't do this myself. I need to have a group of people that can help me drive this machine or push this boulder up this hill. And I've realized that the better I get, so does the charity as well, because the imposter syndrome is real. And I go into so many meetings and find myself in so many situations where I don't know the answer to a lot of things. But I can tell you, like I said, I'm a persistent bugger. I will find out, and I will keep asking. And I think that stems from the time that Angela was in hospital. She was diagnosed with a rare condition. 1 in 100,000 children got what she got. She was given a 25% chance of survival. So we were trying our best to figure out, how do we fight this? How do we get access to the right information? So consensus opinion became really important. We didn't want to make a decision without having experts weigh in. We didn't want to, figure out what is the best course of treatment for her without knowing what the data was. And so having that, I think, created this need from me to, look, I've got to make sure I have all the right information here before we decide. And so I think that's the only thing I've really carried over. It's, yes, I doubt myself. Yes, I wonder if it's the right decision. I'm sure every CEO says the same.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that as well, because I think there's always a presumption that CEOs must be the expert in the room and they must have confidence in everything that they do. But exactly what you're saying is imposter syndrome. Surround yourself with experts, and you may not know everything in the room. Just to flip it a little bit, I wanted to, given your transition from being, tradie, becoming a parent, and then being faced with this extraordinary situation, and then turning your skills into something even more practical to becoming a charity, and now a CEO of a charity. What was the most surprising part for you being a CEO of a charity that you didn't actually expect?
How much work is involved?
The paperwork?
I mean, when you're a tradie, you turn up, you get the job done, you get paid,
Move on to the next job.
You go into the next job. But look, it's been such a wonderful experience for me. It sometimes doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah. Particularly if you're saying that purpose and that's being the soul.
Well, it's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's a privilege to help children. And, I remember what a really good friend of mine, Nicola Stokes, said. She's now the CEO of the AMP Foundation. She gave me some great advice. She said, do you know the difference between the square table and the round table? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, the round table is when you get your team together and you ask them for their opinion on a problem and you make a decision together and you move forward with it. And the square table is you get your team together, you ask their opinion, but you say to them, I'll make the final decision, but I wear this. And so that's really helped me in trying to navigate. Look, there's some decisions I really need help to make together as a team. And there's others that, look, if it's a tie break or if there's something that you're not sure about, it's a leap of faith. You just got to do it.
It so is. I often say we're taking a punt. It feels like gambling sometimes. We just need to take a punt because you're making a decision with imperfect information in an imperfect world. And you've just got to go for it. And somebody's got to make a decision, right? Doing nothing is a decision in itself. But it sounds to me like you're constantly always wanting to move forward. So I'm really interested as well. You talk about like surrounding yourself with people, looking at the data, asking lots of questions. How have you been able to build those relationships with people? Because relationships in a charity or in charities is different, as you're saying, to being a tradie, go in, do the job, send the invoice, move on to the next job. You've had to actually manage stakeholders, volunteers, yes, corporate sponsorship, funding, all those sorts of things. Yeah. How have you gone about doing that?
Well, everyone you've just mentioned, we call the Supertee family. Whether you're a volunteer, a board member, a donor, we're a charity that started by a family. We're supported by families, and we support other families in hospital. And so it brings together that, if it takes a village to raise a child, well, what happens when that child gets sick? That's when we need the village more than ever. And I think one thing that has helped bring people together, as well as make decisions, if you are doubting what decision to go, always go back to your North Star. And for me, it's always what's in the best interests of children. And I'm pretty sure if we answer that, that's the right decision. But it also brings together those people. Hey, do you care about kids the same way I do? Does it matter to you how much of a difference you can make with your expertise, your time, your skill set, and the difference you can make in helping this little charity grow? Like, it takes a lot of droplets to fill a bucket. People are proud to say, I've made my contribution.
It's interesting because I'm just thinking that we've done a few podcasts about culture and the CEO building culture or coming into a culture, how you can assess it, how you can check it. So it feels to me that there's quite a specific culture at Supertee. Like it's very purpose driven. You are running it. It's a mission that's really close to your heart. It's real. So have you had to build that culture, or it's almost been self-selecting? People come, work with you, are on your board because they also really believe in the mission? And I mean, have you had decisions where you've had to think, actually, I don't know whether this person is a fit, or actually that doesn't align with our culture? So how does that fit for you as the CEO, which is very different from you as the dad and you as, in the very early days of building, running, but now managing people?
Yeah, great question. And for those that are listening, I'm smiling as you're saying this because, yeah, look, it hasn't been easy. We've made some mistakes. We've had some great apples. We've had some bad apples. And one thing that I'll always stress is that when you come to help, when you come to make your contribution, it's for the benefit of children. That's the primary reason. If it's for anything other than that, I'd rather not have you involved because there's going to be a misalignment. So it's always coming back to, why do you care about this? What are you looking to get out of contributing? And what I find is that when people put their hand up to help at Supertee, there's a myriad of reasons why people put their hand up, but I think the most common one is that they care deeply about children, and in particular, our most vulnerable children, the ones that are in hospital, living that hospital life. They have no choice, and it resonates to those that have either had a prior experience of some sort themselves, or had a loved one, or just can't bear the thought of children suffering in a world where there's already so much suffering going on.
So it sounds like you've had to have a few tricky conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it is hard. And I mean, I think the thing is now as well, in some ways, it may be that those conversations are harder or going to happen more often, because now you've actually got a pretty high profile as a charity. And I think if people go to your website and you see your brand alignment with Marvel, you've got Chris Hemsworth delivering you a message about the charity. So you're famous. But I think, with that, then I've always found comes problems as well as, success and fantastic positive benefits as well. So, I mean, I guess the first thing is, how on earth did you manage to pull off the Marvel association? That's mind-blowing.
Oh, okay. Well, for CEOs listening, I'm going to share with you a little secret. The way that we found or got in contact with Marvel was through the power of LinkedIn. The strategy is you connect with as much lower level staff as much as possible. And when you have a significant amount of lower level staff connected, you then naturally connect with middle management. And then before you know it, there's a decision maker at the top that sees, hey, you're connected to 30 or 40 mutual connections. You must be in the network somehow. I'll accept that connection. And again, persistence. But I think what it was, it's just a really good, clear alignment of what we're trying to do. The power of a costume, when you look at it from the perspective of the Walt Disney Company and what that means to children, their movies, the family values that Disney and Supertee share, where we want to bring that strength through imagination to children. And just, the studies that show how much of a benefit it can be for children in hospital, where they, through the power of a costume, can transform themselves and give themselves permission to impersonate a hero or a space commander or whatever character it is that we're looking to offer them, that power of play can really make a difference.
And hospitals are not places where there's, you naturally think of play. So creating an environment or sort of inspiring the imagination of children in hospital so that they can create their own play environment, I think is really powerful as well. Otherwise, it's just a cold clinical space.
Well, they did this wonderful study where they got a bunch of kids of different ages. They brought them into a room, and in this room was a plastic box, clear box, which had a locked door on it, and inside was a toy. And in this research study, they gave these kids one by one a bunch of keys, and they said, if you can unlock the door to this plastic box, you can have the toy inside. The trick was none of the keys worked.
Oh.
Okay, it sounds cruel. Yeah, I know. It sounds cruel, doesn't it?
Heartbreak. They've got a lot of time to pass.
So these kids, God bless them, they're trying their best to
Patience.
open up this door. None of the keys are working. But they were measuring how long until these children gave up. What do you think happened when they started to put costumes on the kids?
No, I bet they went longer.
Oh, they would have gone longer. They would have assumed the character of the costume in different ways to get to the box rather than just use a key and work together.
One person said they smashed the box or something like that. But they found, it doubled the amount of persistence time. And the reason for that is because it gives them permission to impersonate those characteristics. We do it as adults, I challenge any male CEO listening to this, and be honest with me now when you hear this. Every time you've been invited to a black tie event and you've put on that tuxedo and you've adjusted that bow tie in front of the mirror, who do you think you look a little bit like?
Wonder Woman. That's who they think they look like, Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Kidding. No, I'm kidding.
I love it.
Kidding. No, but if you think about it, somebody once told me, before you go into a meeting where it's really high stress, assume the superhero stance. And, this was as an adult, not as a child, assume the superhero stance.
There's a TED talk on this.
Yeah, and I've done it. And it really does work in the sense that, it opens up, your physical space. It opens up your mind. You're assuming a character as well. It's giving you confidence to be able to go in. If adults can do it, it's bigger for children, I imagine. So, but one of our most popular episodes has been around our CEOs and boards because it is a fundamental element of working in not-for-profit as a CEO. So how did you build the relationship with your board?
Or pick your board. Presumably you did pick your board.
Pick your board, yeah. And how do you work with them?
Again, I'm smiling because of that question because...
everybody smiles at that question.
Or rolls their eyes.
Yeah.
I really love our board, and we had a meeting recently where they all agreed that they are on the board at a guilt trip.
Oh.
I somehow made them feel guilty and compelled them to want to join, which I'm completely comfortable with. And what I love is that each one of the board members has their own reason and story for joining the board. They all have their own area of expertise. And I remember, speaking to every single one, I finished every conversation with saying, I have this dream that I want to achieve. This is how it looks. This is the mountaintop view I have. Can you help me get there?
Yeah.
And if you can help me come along this journey, that view on top of that mountain is going to be amazing.
That's beautiful and very powerful.
I think that means you get the right people in the seats, don't you, for the right reasons. And do they also dress up as superheroes around the boardroom?
Oh, look, I've been trying to. Yeah, no. I think it's overdue. We should have a dress up. No one does dress up parties anymore, do they?
Oh, my workplace does. We
do they? Okay.
It's a big thing. It's I don't know, but not at a board meeting, no. But
that should be a mandatory national
dress up day. Absolutely. But please get the board to do superhero, and that's a photo for the website,
for
definitely.
Sure. So Jason, I was just going to say, you've actually come so far. You've packed so much into the past few years, and there's going to be a lot of CEOs out there or aspiring CEOs out there who are listening. And whilst they might not set up their own organisation, some might, they're going to be running organisations with missions that are personal to them. And I just wonder if you've got something to say to them I'm just thinking about, this drive, something that's really personal for you, but you've also got to work, as you said, there's a lot of work going on, and just balance so many of the obligations on being a leader in this kind of organisation. So what would you say to people who either look at this and think that's exactly where I want to end up? I want to lead an organisation that's really personal, with a personal mission, or create one, but it's a big thing to take on.
Yeah, I learned very quickly I can't do this by myself. I don't think any business or any CEO, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You have to provide that opportunity for that person to make that dent in the universe you're trying to build, and support them. And again, coming from the tradie background, it's all about how can we get the job done as quickly as we can, crack that whip. In the charity sector, or where I find myself now, it's different. I see myself more as a support role or a supportive role, where it's the team I create or the team I pull together. They're the ones that actually grow the business. They're the ones that make the magic. I'm just there to see what they need. And if there's one thing that I've got to keep bringing every day, it's passion. I've got to remind everyone why we're doing this. We get told a lot of times in this sector, no, we can't help you. No, not interested. No, we've decided against you. And when we get that yes, we celebrate together because we've worked bloody hard to get that yes. So you go through it together, and a CEO that doesn't have passion for their role and doesn't have a way to pass that passion on to others, why are you there? Why would anyone want to be there if you're not that leader that is sharing that mountaintop view, as I mentioned earlier? Take people on that journey. It's going to make that boulder very heavy to push, but you're not going to be able to push it by yourself. I hope that helps.
I was going to say, I think that's been the theme through this, is all the way through, is that you may have started this on your own, but you haven't been alone all the way through, whether it be because your purpose is something bigger than you, whether it be the supporters that you've been able to bring along, but it's very egoless as well. And I think that, and as you said, it's the soul. Charity is a soul. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I think that's really inspirational, and it's a really good reminder for all of us who are for-purpose leaders in this sector. We do get told no a lot, or we do get a lot of barriers put in front of us. So to keep persisting, persistence was a theme. Ask lots of questions, surround yourself with people who know more than you, and focus on your North Star. It always comes down to that.
Well said.